Good day, everyone. I'll be the next presenter this time, and I want you to listen very carefully. Don't sleep while I'm discussing. Today, we will tackle about education during the time of Spanish and American, and we will include some of their teaching and other influences they left here in the Philippines. First, we will start from the Spanish, or the education during the time of the Spaniard, and of course some of their influences. Philippines already have an education system before the Spaniard came, guided by the Babaylan, Rahas, and Datu. But when the Spaniard came, they introduced the formal education, where there is a classroom, teacher, and a student. This formal education was conducted mostly by religious order. Upon learning the local languages and writing system, they began teaching Christianity, the Spanish language, and the Spanish culture. These religious orders opened the first school and university as early as the 16th century. Spanish missionaries established school immediately after reaching the island. Now, the friars. The friars were effective in evangelizing the Catholic religion to the Filipinos. But one major failure of the educational system of the religious congregation was the withholding of the Filipinos to learn other bodies of knowledge. Education during the Spanish regime was privileged only to the Spanish student. So, Filipino students are not privileged that time for education. Several educated Filipino referred to as the Ilustrados began movement directed toward change in the system of government in the Philippines. Let's move on to Augustinians, Franciscans, Jesuits, and Dominicans. First, the Augustinians. The Augustinians opened a school immediately upon arriving in Cebu in 1565. Here are some pictures of them. The next, the Franciscans. The Franciscans arrived in 1577, and they too immediately taught the Filipino how to read and write, or to be literate. Besides, they impart to them important industrial and agricultural techniques. Here are some pictures of them. Then let's move on to Jesuits and Dominicans. The Jesuits who arrived in 1581 also concentrated on teaching, but they focused on the young peoples. And when the Dominicans came in 1587, they did the same thing, teaching the young. Now, the printing press. The Spanish also introduced the printing presses to produce book in Spanish and Tagalog, sometimes using baybayin. The first book printed in the Philippines dates back to 1590. It was a Chinese language version of Doctrina Christiana. Spanish and Tagalog version in both Latin and locally used baybay script were later printed in 1593. And here's the picture of the book. Now, Thomas Pinpin. In 1610, Thomas Pinpin, a famous printer, writer, and publisher who is sometimes referred as the patriarch of Filipino printing, who wrote his famous librong Pag-aaralan ng mga Tagalog ng Wikang Kastila that was meant to help Filipino learn the Spanish language. And the prologue goes like this. Let us therefore study, my countrymen, for although the art of learning is somewhat difficult, yet if we are persevering, We shall soon improve our knowledge. Other Tagalog like us did not take a year to learn the Spanish language using my book. This good result have given me satisfaction and encouragement to print my work so that all may derive some profit from it. Educational Decree of 1863. The Educational Decree of 1863 provided a free education system in the Philippines managed by the government. This is what we have right now. We have free public education in the Philippines managed and governed by the government. The decree mandated the establishment of at least one primary school for boys and one primary school for girls in each town under the responsibility of municipal government, and the establishment of a normal school for the male teacher under the supervision of the Jesuits. And then after the implementation of this decree, the number of school and student increased steadily. In the year 1866, there were 135,098 students, both girls and boys. And by the year 1898, there were already 200,000 students, both boys and girls. In conclusion, the implementation of the decree is very helpful and effective in the Filipino becoming more literate and educated. And this educational decree benefits us. Among those who benefit from the free public education system were the Baryoning group of the Filipino intellectuals, the Ilustrados, or the enlightened ones, some of whom included Jose Rizal, Graciano Lopez Jaina, Marcelo H. del Pilar, Mariano Ponce, and Antonio Luna, all whom played a vital role in the propaganda movement that ultimately inspired the founding of the Katipunan.
After a year ago, after the Spanish colonization, the American came. The Americans were keen to open up 7 schools with Army servicemen, teaching with Army Command selected books and supplies. In the same year, 1899, more schools were opened in this time, with 24 English language teachers and 4,500 students. A highly centralized experimental public school system was installed in 1901 by the Philippine Commission and legislated by Act No. 74. The law exposed a severe shortage of qualified teachers, brought about by the large enrollment number in schools. As a result, the Philippine Commission authorized the Secretary of Public Instruction to bring more than 1,000 teachers from United States, who were called Thomasites, to the Philippines between 1901 and 1902. These teachers were scattered throughout the island to establish barangay schools. The law was same as the Philippine Normal School to train aspiring Filipino teachers. The high school system was supported by provincial government and included special education institute, schools of arts and trades, an agriculture school, and commerce and marines institute, which were established in 1902 by Philippine Commission. Several other laws was passed throughout the period. In 1902, the Act No. 372 authorized the opening of provincial high schools. In 1908, marked the year when Act No. 1870 initiated the opening of the University of the Philippines, now the country's national university. The emergence of high school education in Philippines, however, did not occur in 1910. It was born out of rising number in enrollment, widespread economic depression, and a growing demand by big businesses and technological advantage in factories, and the emergence of electrification for skilled workers. In order to meet this new job demand,
High school were created the curriculum focused on the practical job skill that will better prepare students for professional white collar or skilled blue collar work. This proved to be beneficial for both the employees and the employers. The investment in human capital caused employees become more efficient, which lowered costs for the employer, and skilled employees receive a higher wage than those employees with a primary education attainment.
However, a steady increase in enrollment in school appeared to have hindered in any revision to then implemented experimental educational system. Act No. 1381, also known as Gabaldon Law, was passed in 1907, which provided a fund of ₱1,000,000 for construction of concrete school building and is one of many attempts by the government to meet his demand. In the line, as well with the Philippinization policy of government, the reorganization of Act 1916 provided all department secretaries except the Secretary of Public Instruction must be natural-born Filipino. This all revision, building, and adoption was made to improve our education system. Thanks to them, even they colonized us, they left something good that we can use in our future life. Now, that's the end of my report. Thank you for listening. The next presenter will discuss more learning, so stay up and listen very carefully. Again, thank you.